It's a new month, and that means there's a whole bunch of new 3D printed files available. So in this video, we'll go through those. They'll all be timestamped down below. I'll also have a link to my website where I've got an overview for all of the links. And if there's anything I miss off on here that you think should be on there, share them in the comments below and let me know which ones you are going to be printing and maybe painting this month. So let's kick it off with a fantasy. And the first one on the list is a Rescale Miniatures with their Saurian set. So if you're into lizard men, they've got a whole bunch, including this like absolutely gigantic crocodile beastie. They've basically got everything you'd expect to be able to build out like a lizard man Saurian army. So you've got all like their infantry, some of their like flyer units, and then you're moving on to some of their bigger things as well. So like your T-Rexes, and then these big like jumpy beasts, I'm going to call them, like pouncing, and they're really interesting little poses. And then, as I mentioned at the start, they've also got this massive like crocodilian. It's on this rock. It looks like it'd probably take up quite a lot of resin to print it off, but it looks like a really interesting pose. I like it a lot. And then these like dragony things that I assume were probably for a different type of army, maybe for this one if you wanted it to, but they do look distinctly different to all the others. So although they're dragony dinosaur type creatures, they almost look, I don't know, ethereal, angelic. I'm going to throw some words out there, but yeah, a really interesting set there if you are interested in having some like lizard men and dinosaurs and all of that. Next up, we've got Artisan Guild, and they've got these really interesting undead. So they're all like mummies and ancient Egypt type themed. There's a whole bunch of them. So you've got all of like your infantry units, and you've got sort of like their almost like a centaur type creature as well. These big old like four-armed, big like colossus type ones as well. And then there's the big beastie. Interesting as well, their terrain's quite nice. Artisan Guild's sometimes a bit hit and miss with some of their terrain. It's sometimes just like one type of themed piece, which is quite small, and sometimes it's larger. This month seems to be quite a bit larger. So you've got this big old like tomb, and then these like obelisks and the ruined obelisk as well. So yeah, there's a whole bunch here, and I really, really like the style of these. So Artisan Guilds get a really good balance, in my opinion, of being kind of cartoony, but also realistic. They're really nice to paint as well, because all the hands, they're very heroic proportion. So it's quite easy to paint, and they're not overly detailed, but they're detailed enough. These are really, really nice. I really like them. And although I've not been painting any fantasy stuff for a while, kind of tempted by these, but I should probably resist. Next up is Highlands Miniatures, and they've got some Skaven. So again, they're older, sort of like old hammer style Skaven compared to the new ones. So if you're into like the Skaven type stuff at the moment, which is really nice by Games Workshop, I love all those new sculpts, but you sometimes just can't beat some of the classic old ones. And I think when it comes to Skaven, the old style is fantastic. Highlands Miniatures are doing a really good job with their Skaven stuff, or Ratmen, or whatever we're going to call these, of kind of getting that mix between the old and the new style. I really like these. So we've got obviously like your plague bearers, obviously like your gas throwers, all like the weapons teams as well. So you've got like the warp fire throwers, the big old Gatling cannons, then you've got your rattling snipers, and then these really like cool little things on this like unicycle type thing. Looks really, really bizarre. So you've got this mortar team and then a big like warp cannon as well. They look really, really nice. I absolutely love this set. I think I've got their original one that they came out with when they first brought in the Skaven stuff. I'm tempted by these, but again, I'm not doing fantasy at the moment. I've got too much to paint. I should resist, but it is hard. So yeah, if you're into Old World, Age of Sigmar, you just want some Skaven stuff, definitely check these out. Next up, we've got Vevictus, and they've got Asterix and Obelix. I'm probably saying those wrong, but I remember these from my childhood, and it was just a good, fun cartoon that I really, really liked. And along with their Asterix and Obelix little scout sculpts there, you've also got some more rats. So you've got like the assassin style rats, and then you've got a whole bunch of like infantry rats as well. They're really, really fun. And then if you're into it, there's a lady popping out of a cake to celebrate their birthday. So that's different. Then next up, we've got Arbiter Miniatures, and I threw this on here because they're a little bit different, and I don't think I've seen them before. They are doing a set of Death Knights, and they're really, really nice sculpts. They remind me very much, or at least one of them does, of Warcraft. Warcraft 2, I think it was. Might be Warcraft 3. I don't know. But that sort of theming there. And then there's some other little ones that go with it as well. But the really interesting thing about these is they are pre-supported, as you'd expect, but they also do some pre-supported ones to work with an FDM printer. I'm definitely going to back this because I'm really interested in seeing how they come off on my FDM printers, because if you are FDM printing miniatures, as you know, there are ways of pre-supporting them. There's some really unique and interesting ways. If you just, have a look around, you'll find some of those. But sometimes it is a bit of a pain. There's a lot of hoops to jump through. So really interesting to see if we're going to start getting something like this and if it takes off, because there's a lot of FDM printers now and it seems to be really gaining traction. And these look like great sculpts that would work really, really well with FDM printing. So I'll see how they come off. But on their own, they stand out really nice as just being a lovely little set. So if you're into that and you want that, it's worthwhile checking out. Next up, we've got Beholder Miniatures, and they continue with their tree people. So last month, I think it was the first time they had some tree people, and they looked awesome. And this month, they've got a whole bunch more, and also all of the other different races that they normally have. So first up, we've got this elf on an eagle. Looks really, really nice. And then the dwarves. And I think I've mentioned it before. I'm never normally a massive fan of like old Warhammer dwarves or Age of Sigmar or anything. I just think they're a bit... but they do really good sculpts with these. They're really, really interesting every time. Then we go on to their tree people. I really like these. They look... I don't know. They almost look like mutated tree people. Like something out of almost Resident Evil. And I think it's a really nice look. Then we go on to some more dwarves. We've got the bagpipe here. And then some elves. And I really like the look of these elves. Like, very interesting. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff there. So that's Beholder Miniatures. And if you're looking for some tree people, some really interesting looking elves and some dwarves as well, it's worthwhile having a look at. And then last on the list, another bit of a curveball one that I've never covered before is Imitation of Life. And they're doing some 15mm models. So I feel like this month we're getting a whole bunch of different style things, some for FDM and also some 15mm models. And these are cultists. I really like these as well. And again, I'm very tempted to back these. There's a lot I'm very tempted by this month. I'm having impulse controls clearly. These look really, really nice and they look like they'll print perfectly for 15mm. But I also think they'd be quite nice to bump up to like full size and go for like 32mm or 28mm, whatever you want to go for. And they'd be quite fun to paint and I just like them. They look really, really nice. The problem with 15mm models is normally it's us 3D printers scaling down a full-size model to 15mm or smaller. And although it works, and it can actually work really nicely, it's not always made for that, so it can make removing supports a little bit fiddly, and sometimes just playing with the model is a little bit fiddly as well, because you can have some bits that are really, really thin. But obviously these have been made to work at 15mm, and you can see like all the weapons and everything are quite close and tucked in against the body, so they're less likely to snap, big shafts, just really, really nice weapons, nice enough that you can paint on there, decent amount of detail will show up on the tabletop. So worthwhile having a look at. Interesting little set there, and yeah, I think I might have to give that one a go. So moving across onto Sci-Fi, and we will kick it off with Station Forge. We've got an Orc Assassin, some Grimguard Flamers, and other bits as well. So first up, we've got this Orc Assassin, which looks not particularly sneaky. He just looks like a big old orc with a lot of assassin type gear. So he's got these goggles on with all these different eyes. He's got a smoke grenade kind of going off in front of him to cover him up. And then we've got these Grimguard Flamers, which I really, really like the look of. I love all of Station Forge's Grimguards. I think they look fantastic. And these look great. I quite like their Flamers. They look almost a bit too big for them, but they look like these proper big beastie Flamers with canisters on the back. And they've got some really interesting like smoke and flame effects. I'm not normally a fan of them, but these seem to work quite nicely in all the renders. And then you've got these scavenger snipers. And this made me really tempted to make their, like, print off loads of their scavenger stuff. I had a look back through them. Historically, I've never taken much notice of them. But they look really interesting. And I love the way these look. They almost look, I don't know, almost like feudal samurai-esque type warriors. All these like mechanical parts, and there's some like almost organic parts in there as well. They're really interesting, and I love all the different poses, all the different weapons and how they look. So I have been tempted by that, but I've still got too much to do. So that is Station Forge. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. Next up, we've got Art Villain Games, and they've got these samurai soldiers, and they look fantastic. Again, not too sure where you would use them. There's a lot of like mechanical properties and everything on here, but some really, really beautiful sculpts, some really interesting vehicles and everything else as well. And I think they would maybe make sense to use as like an elite army or elite unit for maybe like AdMech or something like that. You could probably fit them into most things and just have them as a bit of a random type unit. I I really like them. They're beautifully sculpted and they look fantastic. Next up, we've got Wargame exclusives, and I put mechanical dragon mounts and cultists. So these, once it loads up, there's loads of stuff here to kind of add into multiple different types of army. So first up, we've got these orcs with these big old like machine guns, and they look fantastic. I really, really like the look of these. Got this one, I don't know if he's got a beard or if it's like a mask or something on there, but there's a whole bunch of fun orcs. And then we've got these, so it's a mechanic adept Pyrrhokos. I'm really bad at reading today, apparently, riders. And it's basically this, I don't know, it looks kind of like a T-Rex or a chicken breathing fire. And it's a robot. It's bizarre. It's really fun, though. It's a really bizarre sculpt, but a really fun sculpt as well. And then we've also got these cultists, and again, they look fantastic. So they're in this really unique looking armor, and they've got these like clawed feet and boots, and these really interesting weapons that almost looks like a bird head. So I suppose you could almost probably combine them with the robot chicken. I really like these. There's a lot here to like. Yeah, definitely worthwhile checking out. Next up, we've got Daka Daka, and they've got horses in gas masks. Now, I recently printed and painted a couple of these because they reached out and asked if I wanted to, have a look at any of their units they've currently got. I'll have those up on screen quickly, but as well as the horses in gas masks, which are fantastic, it's a whole bunch of modular guardsmen as well. This big old tank, so if you're looking for some more vehicles, you've got that too. And then the thing that I actually really, really like is this special ops team. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. They're on this kind of heavy armor. Their weapons are really interesting. They look like Imperial Guard meets Gears of War in that respect. There's probably other similarities between other units and stuff from Games Workshop, but I really like these. Whole range of different modular weapons, all the different heads can be loaded out in different ways, but I think they look absolutely fantastic. And then they've got this stealth team, which are in this really slender armor. They've got this stealth shield or energy shield, and they look really interesting as well. So again, it'd be quite a nice fit to add something different to your units. Next up, we've got Gamuk, and there is a Chaos Lord with a big axe. I feel like there's always a Chaos Lord with a big axe. You've got a whole bunch of these winged vultures as well to go with your Kroot units. Some Kroot units riding on their big old mounts and everything. And then you've got, I think it's a Chaos Sorcerer by the looks of it. Yep. So I guess maybe you could use it for 1,000 Suns or something like that. You've got all the runic symbols on there. And then this big Grimguard or Imperial Guard Chaos Corrupted tank. Looks really interesting. But then the final thing they've got on here is this. This will be probably a love or hate type thing. It's like a dreadnought wielding a big sword and shield. It's almost like a dreadnought meets a mech type thing. I like it. I think it looks quite cool. Like I said, it's probably going to be an acquired taste because some people won't. I do prefer my dreadnoughts to be all small and boxy because a boxnaught is the best dreadnought. Fight me. What's your favourite type of dreadnought? Boxnaughts. It's got to be a boxnaught, otherwise that makes me a sad panda. But it's a really interesting sculpt, man. Just quite like the look of it. So that is Gamuk. And last on the list is Wildmesh. And obviously they are doing Slaaneshi at the moment. And currently, with Slaaneshi, sidetracked, I do have Fulgrim. It's been sat on my desk now for about 2 weeks. So I pre-ordered him. And I am ashamed to admit, I'm scared of painting this. And I don't know why. It's quite intimidating. And it's not necessarily because of the model, but because of the paint job on that, I think looks fantastic. And every other paint job I have seen looks absolute perfection. And although I can paint well, I don't think I can paint to that skill. So I'm going to spend some time with it. I need to big myself up. If you want me to do a video on attempting to paint to my best standard I possibly can, let me know in the comments. I'm going to need some encouragement because I'm really struggling to get myself in the mindset to paint that. I'm terrified of it and I don't know why. So anyway, moving back on. So Wildmesh. They've got some Slaaneshi type things. Now, I said in last month's video, I covered Wildmesh as well. A lot of their stuff was really good. You had the demonettes. So they've got this demonette sort of lord. And and there's one with apparently a sexy companion, so if you're into that. It comes in a safe for work version, or probably not really that safe for work, and a non-safe for work version as well. So really lovely looking sculpt. There's all different like body types and stuff you can put on there. Different head types, different weapons and arms and everything. So you could probably put a few of those. And then the sexy companions are these ladies. I don't know why I'm about to act it out when I'm probably going to have the picture on there, but holding like a platter with a sword and everything on top. So they're all walking along. Now, the standout is the riders. Now, I said in the last video that I did not like their mounts. The riders looked fantastic, the mounts less so. This month is adequately Slaaneshi, because it's demonettes, as we'd expect, riding on these big old fleshy mounts that have penis heads. Literally, their neck is a penis with a penis head on top, with teeth. Now, if they didn't intend for that to be what it is, wow, I don't know how you'd miss it, but that is definitely just look at the pictures. These are fantastic. I think they are a lot of fun. I might just have to print off a whole bunch of penis heads, because why not? Anyway, swiftly moving on from sci-fi, and we are on to D&D. So first up, we've got Artvillain Games, and they've gone for this like waspy hive type thing. So I guess if you're into your tree people, they would fit quite nicely. But I also think these look quite nurgly as well. So if you're into D&D, then of course you're probably going to be checking them out. They come with the adventure and everything else. But I really, really like these. And why are they not showing up on my list here? Here they are. These like waspy insect type people. So they look amazing. Artvillain Games always do a really good job of making beautiful detailed sculpts. But these look just horrific. It just, like I said, I think you could use them with like a tree people army or its own type of army, or putting them in there with like a Nurgle or a Chaos army, because they're just horrible. They look really, I don't know, they look like it's not that they are made as insects. They almost look like, again, something from Resident Evil or Nurgle. It looks like you're turning into this thing. So a lot of these awful things, they look like mutants and everything. They're just a really interesting set. Or there's like insect people as well. You could even maybe make some of these quite Slaaneshi. So we've got these like the Sylvari hive of the Wasp Queen bit, the Criff Queen's Guard, that's the one. And it's this almost like really slender lady, but with all these extra arms coming off. And I think they'd be quite Slaaneshi. There's a whole load of things that you could use these with. And I think that could be quite a lot of fun. They're really interesting sculpts, so worthwhile checking out. Next up, we've got Mammoth Factory. And they've got Alice in Wonderland. So they are continuing with their Disney-inspired stuff. And this month looks a lot of fun again. So you've got like your Alice in Wonderland bit, but there's a few other standouts here that really, really kind of take my fancy. So you've got Jump Off, which is basically like big old Dumbo, but taking, obviously, the mascot of Mammoth Factory and turning it into a giant winged mammoth. It's a really, really fun sculpt. Then you've got, obviously, this Puffball the cat. There's just loads of random things. This big old worm creature getting high. These horrible murder rabbits that just it's Watership Down, basically. It's bringing back childhood memories that are going to traumatize me. But I really like these. The red cappers and the mad cappers. They're really horrible. They're like really, really horrible. I think they've done a very, very good job of capturing some kind of, I don't know, just makes me uneasy looking at them, which I think is a really, really good job. So it's a really, really nice set. There's quite a lot in there that I'd quite like to kind of print off and have a play with. But yeah, definitely worthwhile checking out. And last on the D&D list is Cast and Play with their Woodland Hero set. Now, I always say with Cast and Play, they're going to be an acquired taste. Some people will like them, some people won't, just because of the art style. They're a little bit more cartoony than other things, which fits well for what I do, because obviously I tend to print and paint a lot of stuff with my kids and their friends and everything. So having stuff like this really, really works nicely. But I think they get a really good balance of not being too cartoony, but cartoony enough that it's quite fun to print and paint. And this set, there is loads of stuff. It's basically loads of woodland creatures that have been turned into different like warriors and types of heroes and everything. And there's a really good selection here. So if you do have kids and you want to get them into something like D&D, or you just want to get them into painting miniatures and stuff like that, this is a really nice set. And I think it's different to other things out there. So you've got dice heads, for example, which are really nice to get kids into because, again, very cartoony and everything. But these are a little bit different step to something like dice heads because they're almost more proportioned to the same thing as like your traditional type of miniature you'd get, but they're just a bit more whimsical and fun. And then there's this horrible tree, which is just, again, there's a lot of stuff in here that's been, I don't know, looks a little bit horror, and I don't know why. It just makes me feel... So yeah, definitely worthwhile checking out if you're into that sort of thing. It looks like it'll be just a good fun adventure to play with the kids, or just your friends if you want to as well. So yeah, have a look at it. Moving across onto terrain, and we're kicking it off with Forbidden Prints, and they've got these big old alien guns. So you can print the big old alien gun on its own, or you can print it off as part of this like bit. I'm using bit loosely there because I can't think of the name, like plinth, platform, thing, some alien-esque terrain, and that'd be quite fun. It's quite big as well, so you're probably going to want an FDM printer for this, but then if you just want to print the gun on its own, it'd probably print off on a resin printer, as long as you've got like a mid to large size printer. Detailed, it looks a lot of fun. I also like the fact there's a lot of flat play space as well, so if you are doing like objectives and stuff like that, and you want to be able to get on there and take cover and stuff like that, it's quite nice in that respect. Sometimes these things get overly complicated and there's not actually anywhere to put your miniatures. They fall off and they break and then you cry. So this is quite nice. I really like it. It's worthwhile having a look at if you need something a little bit different. We always see like Imperial or Gothic type terrain, so it's nice to see something just a bit different. Next up, we've got the Dragon's Rest, and these are really interesting actually, and service unavailable. Fantastic. So as I do this, my mini factory has stopped working. Brilliant. I'm going to have to go by memory. So anyway, Dragon's Rest has, I don't know, I put them in terrain, but they're not quite terrain. They are doing almost like modular boards that you can print off. So part of their welcome pack is it's based on Hero Quest. So it's the Hero Quest layout. My accent just went really weird. That's bizarre. It's based on like Hero Quest, so it's the board, and you can 3D print it all, which I've always liked the look of doing. I know one of my friends really wants me to do something like that, but I just never have the time. So they have that, but they're building out like different, almost like D&D objective boards that you could print off with all like different bridges and everything else on there. If you are doing D&D adventures, I think it's quite a nice take to do because it gives you everything. There's always loads of terrain, which is nice, and not knocking that. It's great to have loads of terrain, but I always find that one of the hardest things when it comes to 3D printing, just in general, either if it's going to be a battle board or stuff for like D&D, is just tiles. There's not much in the way of tiles. They're either all the open lock ones, which are like little small ones, and you clip them all together and gradually build it out, or there's not much else. I love the idea of this like big old like modular board you can put together. So yeah, worthwhile checking out if you are, that way inclined and like me want something like that. And then next up, we've got Dark Realms, which is doing these World War II buildings. So there's a whole bunch of World War II themed buildings. So if you're into something like bolt action, or if you just want to have some more closer to modern day style buildings, maybe you've got your Space Marines going to liberate a planet that's been taken over by Gene Stealer cults, just anything like that. It's a little bit different to all the Gothic stuff. And sometimes it's quite nice to build out that type of village, so just worthwhile checking out there. Anyway, moving across onto the last part, we've got some Kickstarters. First one is this Wild Wests Part 2. So there must have been a Part 1, and I don't know if I covered it. But again, if you want something just a bit different, I don't know what you'd be playing this with. Fallout would probably be quite good to play this with. Or even your sci-fi stuff could be quite fun to play it with. There's just loads of stuff here, and you could build out this Midwest, I don't know, big old little village, whatever. They're really nice, well-made houses as well. At least from the renders, they all look really good. They look like they print off really nicely and really easily on an FDM printer. They're basically you've got all your play space inside of it, so you can pop off the roof and everything else, as you'd expect from these sort of things. It's a really nice look. Definitely like the look of that. And last on the list is this one here by Velrock, and it is Dead Wars Factions. Now, Velrock recently got in contact with me. I've done some stuff with them before, and I really like their miniatures. The problem is the renders don't do them justice at all. Yeah, so there's multiple different factions available, and you choose a different faction, get them all printed off, and there's a lot of different things in there. I've been sent the files to try them out, and there are a lot to choose from there. You've got your different commander types, you've then got your infantry types, you've then got your special unit types and everything. And all of the different factions have like the backstory, and they're trying to build out this world and everything. So it's worthwhile having a look at. They're meant to be really easy to kit bash as well. They're pre-supported. I just like the look of them. I will try and have some up on screen as well. So I have printed some of them off, and they've come off really, really nicely. But I've also got to film this video and edit it, and also clean those miniatures because I've run out of time for this month. I don't know where it's gone. So I have them up on screen. Like I said, the renders do not do these justice, which is a real shame because there's some beautiful miniatures in there. So I'm going to do my best to get some up on screen because, yeah, these renders just not doing it for me. And I think if you went to this page to have a look at it, you probably feel the same. But the minis look really good once they're printed. So I'll have those up, hopefully, on screen. So that is it for this month. Thank you so much for watching. If I've missed anything on there that you think should be part of it, throw it down in the comments below. Let me know, what are you going to be printing this month? Or what have you been painting? And what are like your standouts from that list? Also, should I paint Fulgrim? I will paint Fulgrim. It's whether or not I film the process or not, because I don't think I'll be able to get it to a particularly good standard. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see at some point in the future. And are there any bits on there, not spits, bits on there that you want me to basically subscribe to and print? I probably will do the 15mm ones because I'm quite interested by those, and the FDM pre-supported ones because, again, I'm interested. It's something different that hasn't, well, it probably has been tried before, but something different now that I've discovered on that list that actually I do want to try it out and see how it goes. I guess we shall find out. In the meantime, happy printing, happy painting, happy hobbying, and all of that stuff. Ta-ra!